What's up, guys? I have another video for you today. It's been a while, but I haven't really been doing a lot of pen videos in the last few months. Not necessarily because I haven't gotten any new pens, but just time constraints and all of that stuff kind of prevented me making videos. But I figured since today's Fountain Pen Day, I should probably try and get a video up. This pen here, I apologize, I don't have the box that it came with or the leather pen slip that it came with, but today's video is going to be on, if you guys recognize the 4 diamonds on a clip, a Franklin Christoph, specifically the Model 20 Marietta. I had bought this pen during the DC pen show. It was actually one of 2 items that I had purchased during the pen show. I had bought this pen. I went into the show figuring that I would pick up at least one Franklin Christoph pen, although I wasn't exactly sure which model. And I also ended up picking up a bottle of vintage Schaefer's Peacock Blue with the nice inkwelled baby food container kind of bottles. But anyway, I went into the DC show figuring I would pick up a Franklin Christoph. For a few reasons. One, you know, they're pretty highly reviewed, and Franklin Christoph as a company is very highly regarded. At least I think so in the pen world. You don't really often see poor reviews for their pens. And they also take, well, most of their pens take Jowo number 6 nibs, which I wanted to try and standardize. I want to try and standardize the pens that I own to take the variety of nibs that I have, and outside of, say, like my Sean Newton Sumter, I didn't really have a lot of pens that took number 6 size nibs readily, and at the same time, they're so widely available that I wanted to just expand my pen collection to be able to take those nibs, and in turn I would then also pick up a few spare nibs. You know, I have like a tray right here of like spare nibs. So I decided Franklin Christoph, probably not a bad choice. Some of their designs do appeal to me. The other choice between either this Model 20 was the Model 03, the Interim I think it's called. And I really like that pen and a lot of Franklin Christoph's pen because they have that large block thread at the front of the section, and that allows you to basically have a smoother transition from section to barrel without having threads in the way. Unfortunately, I felt that the 03's section was a little too narrow for me. It tapered down a little too much, and the section on the 20 definitely appealed to me a lot more. You know, as you can see here, it does pinch off a bit, but it's not nearly as narrow of a pinch, I feel at least, and I definitely feel that this pen is a lot more comfortable to hold on to. As you can see from this cap being off, there are no threads on this. The Model 20 is actually a slip cap thread. I'm a little mixed on how I feel about the way Franklin Christoph designed this style of slip cap. They say that, you know, the section distributes the force as you cap the pen back on, cap the cap back onto the pen, so that it'll prevent cracking. I assume what they mean is that basically there's no forces pushing against the cap lip, which is, you know, for slip caps, especially if you look at vintage pens, you know, that lip is a common area for cracks to occur. And so I guess if they distributed the force internal to the cap, it prevents that kind of splitting. I feel that it's okay. I don't mind the tightness of it. Since it is a slip cap, you can kind of basically snap it on. Like, it doesn't really snap, it just kind of like friction fits into place. You can do that with as much force or as little force as you would like, and obviously the more force you stick it on, the more difficult it'll be to get the cap off. Like you can see here, it's a little more difficult. In terms of how airtight the slip cap is, I have had some drying issues with this particular pen. Not terrible, but if I let the pen sit for a few days, it does kind of hard start a little bit. And I don't want to necessarily say that it's a poor cap seal, because even though there's no inner cap in the cap itself, I think it seals up pretty well. The only thing is I'm a little too hesitant to really press fit this cap on really tightly. Like normally I just have it on like a pretty loose fit, to where like it easily just comes off without a lot of force, and maybe that's preventing it from sealing up really well. But I mean, other than that, haven't really had any issues. I do wish that the cap fit, like you can see basically where that seam is between the section and the barrel, and the cap barely fits over that. I kind of wish they tapered the barrel maybe slightly so that there would be a little more sliding room for the cap, and I feel that that would allow you to kind of get a better feel for how tight the cap is sitting on the pen when you cap it, without, you know, with a lot, since you have a lot more room, it's a lot easier for you to control how much force you cap the pen back with. I feel like how it's set up now, it's either it's uncapped or it's just capped on really tightly. One of the things that appealed to me about this pen was that it was very similar in size to a Pelikan M600, which I happen to find to be a very comfortable pen. You know, here's my 600 in black, and you can see that the cap size is very similar. And uncapped, you can see like the lengths of the two pens are actually very similar, and diameter wise they're actually very similar as well. I am not sure, I haven't measured it, but just from looks and feels, I think that the body, the barrel of the Model 20 is ever so slightly thicker than the barrel of the 600, but at the same time not so much that it really significantly bothers me, or I can really tell that readily. The sections are designed kind of similarly. Like I said, the Model 20 has a fatter section and tapers down, while I feel that the M600 kind of tapers down a little more. And even though the Jovo number 6 nib is actually much larger than the M600 nib, because of how Franklin Christoph has the nib section set into the pen, you can see that it's actually kind of slightly inset deeper than a standard pen would. Normally the top of the nib unit, you know, like this portion here, oh, it's not gonna focus, is it? Normally you see on a lot of pens that that flat section here is usually where the end of the section will be, but in the case with the Model 20, they actually have it set in deeper so that as you screw it in, more of the nib is covered. You can kind of see the two nibs side by side, and you can see how much of it is actually hidden in the section itself. On the pen right now, I actually have a monotone 14 karat gold nib. I didn't get that with the pen. I know that Franklin Christoph does offer gold nibs, I think 18 karat gold nibs, with their pens at an additional cost if you want. This is the standard nib that came with the Franklin Christoph Model 20. Let me try and get this to focus. There we go. You can see their logo down there, with an F indicating this is a fine nib, and I got just the standard steel nib. When I was at the show, my original intentions was either to pick up one of Mike Masuyama's pre-ground nibs for Franklin Christoph, or because, you know, Mike is literally sitting right next to the Franklin Christoph booth, I was hoping to just get a standard nib and just have him customize it. Unfortunately, he was super swamped this year during the DC show, and I had a friend go with me that signed up early in the morning, and he didn't see Mike until the very, very, very end of the day. Basically, at the point where the organizers was kicking everyone off the show floor. So I didn't get any nib work done. Not a big deal. I can just do it myself. You know, as you can see, I've picked up several different size steel nibs, like medium, broads. I also picked up that 14 karat gold fine nib, and it writes really well. In terms of the factory nib, it wrote really nicely. Scott was at the booth, and you know, he will adjust the nibs before he actually gives the pen off to you after you buy it. So it wrote very smoothly. The only thing is it wrote kind of on the dry side, and I prefer my pens to write slightly on the wetter side. And after increasing the wetness of the nib, it wrote with a slight bit of feedback. I felt like just it's probably the inner tines having like birds on them and catching on along the paper. Not too big of a deal. I haven't actually done any work to this nib at all. I wrote with it as is for several months with no problems. And recently I switched over to the gold nib, and I've been very happy with it. I really like the look of an all black pen with just a pure monotone gold nib. This is not going to focus. That's just me, personal preference. In terms of the pen, it takes a standard international converter. It also takes international cartridges. In here right now I actually have a international long cartridge, a Pelkin Edelstein Amethyst cartridge that I got a tin during the Pelkin hubs this year, so I'm kind of using them, and this is one of the few pens that I have that takes standard international long cartridges. So I figured I might as well put this pen to some use with those cartridges. You can also fill this eyedropper. The barrel definitely looks like there's no gaps or opening or anything, so you could just probably silicone the threads, maybe add an O-ring if you want, and eyedropper fill this. But yeah, I mean overall, other than the minor complaints that I have about wishing that the cap set deeper onto the pen body when you cap it, overall I've been pretty happy with it. I carried it plenty. I'm not too crazy about Franklin Christoph's clips. Unfortunately, I don't think there's much you can do about it. I know that during the show they offered models that were clipless. I don't know if that's an option that you get off their website. And in terms of colors, they have the standard black, vintage green. Well, not standard, but they have it in black, I think a vintage green, and also a red tiger stripe. At the show itself, they also had a few prototype models. I saw by the time I got to show on Saturday, I think a lot of them were already sold out, but there were still several like in solid red, and also I think a cobalt blue, and a variety of clip or non clipless pens. They also had a short model of this, like a baby version, that was basically like the Model 20 but with a shorter body. I guess if you want a more pocket friendly pen. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I know Franklin Christoph recently came out with their vintage Coke bottle glass style of acrylic, and it looks really nice, and I think you get on a wait list for several models of the pens. I think the 20 is one of the models that they'll make in that. I'm not 100% sure. I'm thinking about getting on the wait list for one, but I'll have to see. I really do like the look of it. But yeah, that's my only complaint. Good things about it is, easily swappable nibs. The friction fit cap is pretty convenient for if you're taking short notes that you have to constantly, cap and uncap your pen. The engravings aren't super obtrusive, typical on the finial. You can see there Franklin Christoph F with the 4 diamonds. Along the cap here is also engraved Franklin Christoph 20. It's a very lightweight pen, obviously, because it's just all acrylic with no inserts, and a very neutral weighted pen. You can post the cap if you want, and it posts quite well. You see like the depth that the cap will post onto the body. It's nice. Like it sits it a little further down so it doesn't wobble too far up along the pen body, and even with the cap, because it's so lightweight, it doesn't make the pen feel back heavy at all. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you have a good fountain pen day, and thanks for watching.